Greetings, everyone. Dr. Brian Scott back with you again today. This is Insights to the End Times. We're looking at where we are, possibly, we can't tell for sure, but we're looking at where we are on God's end time schedule. Where are we on his end time timetable? We know that Jesus has stated in Matthew 24 that it's not for us to know the exact day or the exact time, but he also gives us various signs, and those signs indicate to us where we are getting closer and closer. In the book of Luke, chapter 21, and verse number, if I can find that verse, 28, here's what Jesus says. When you see these things beginning to happen, look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh. We're getting very, very close to the very end. And we're looking at some of the things that Jesus stated in terms of answering questions asked by his disciples. These statements are made in Matthew 24 and also in the book of Mark, chapter 13, and in the book of Luke, chapter 17 and 21. But I'm working out of Matthew 24 for the most part. And the question that is asked in verse number 3 is, can you tell us the sign of your coming, and can you tell us a sign that prophesies the end of the age? Jesus begins to answer that sign in Matthew 24, verse number 4. He says to them, take heed that no one deceives you. Interesting. Take heed that no one deceives you. That must indicate that there will be a lot of deception going on as one of the major signs of his return. He continues in verse 5 and says, many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and they will deceive many. Well, we have seen a lot of that occurring, but I want to expand that by looking at it this way. Many are going to come saying, I am a Christian, and they will deceive many. I believe we probably will see many more instances of people saying, I am a Christian, and they'll deceive many. Well, he wasn't finished. He went on in verse number 11, and he said, many false prophets will come. They'll rise up, and they'll deceive many. So we're going to have many false prophesiers, or many false people telling us things are about to occur, and the answer is no, they aren't, or you got it wrong. I'll share a little bit about that with you as we go on today. And then as if he hadn't shared enough about the deception, that's 3 times, verse 4, verse 5, verse 11. When he gets over in verse number 24, he says this, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there is the Christ, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. This verse is saying that we're going to have people come along and they're going to do their very best to deceive even the best Christians. And you might think that's impossible. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I'm seeing it all the time. Let's talk about deception for a minute, because I think it's important for us to really understand what it means to deceive or be deceived. A definition of, dictionary definition of deceive or deception is to trick, to be fraudulent, to misrepresent the truth, to operate in deceit. Now, I many times describe it this way. I know this is pretty hokey, but I describe it as similar to bad breath. Everyone around you knows you're deceived. They can tell by what you're saying. Everyone except you. It's like bad breath. Everyone else knows you have bad breath except you. We ought to get a hold of that and understand that. Verse number 4, Jesus said, you better be on the lookout, because there's a lot of people out there who will want to deceive you. In verse 5, he says, you're going to see these people come along. They're going to have a statement about themselves, like I said earlier, I'm a Christian. they're a false Christian in that they are going to deceive many. They have things mixed up. They are not speaking truth. You know, it used to be years and years ago when I was much younger that everybody knew the difference between right and wrong, what was right, what was wrong, what was good, what was evil, what was truth and what was a lie, but not anymore. Not anymore. Jesus himself said, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. But I think we should say it this way. You will know the truth, and the truth you know, that will set you free. Not everything you hear is going to set you free because there's so much going on anymore that's so far away from truth. It's amazing. So just because someone claims to be a Christian does not qualify them as a Christian. You ought to ask some questions to qualify them. If you're a really good Christian believer, in other words, you live what you declare. You're living as a Christian. I many times describe myself this way. I have for many, many years. I was a lawyer in the early years of my everyday work call, Monday to Friday stuff. And I describe myself this way. I am a Christian who happens to practice law. And I would say to others, you need to understand that. You have to put your Christian status first. You have to live it first. And then whatever you do comes second. I won't go into that in any more detail, but most people don't understand that statement. I am a Christian who happens to share God's word with people now as a pastor, as a minister, as a consultant, and so on. Verse 5 says we're going to see an awful lot of people claiming to be something they aren't, and they're going to cause a lot of problems. And then verse 11 says you're going to have false prophets, and they're going to deceive many people. Who are these false prophets? I want to suggest to you that they are more than just people in church settings, okay? I want to suggest to you that they're on the news. They're newscasters. They're news reporters. They're government officials. They are business leaders. Everybody is speaking, talking, sharing stuff, but they don't check out any of the historical facts. We have seen this to a great extent in the attack on Israel by Hamas and the resulting war that has occurred, and the support of people around the world is based on false assumptions. They're claiming Israel should be eliminated, that they are the ones who have come in and taken lands as settlers away from the native people. They're the native people, as we shared yesterday. Israel was their land until the Romans dispersed them in 70 A.D., and they were scattered. And by United Nations declaration in 1948, their land was restored to them. Well, I'm not trying to get off topic here, and I'm not trying to take sides, but the point is, false prophecy is occurring from every source. It's wider than just in churches. It's everywhere you look. And when you turn on the TV, the news you're hearing may be news, or it may be what they want you to hear. I don't need to go into that. If you have followed things at all, you know what I'm talking about. Here's the last thing I want to share with you before I run out of time. There's a Greek word that describes deception. It's planio, or planio. It's Planao. And in Strong's Concordance, where it speaks of this, it says it means to be led off course. It means to be to roam away from safety, from truth, and from virtue. It's pretty cool. And I want to share more about that with you tomorrow. So in closing, this Greek word planio, which means deceit or deception, means to be led off course and to be influenced by someone else to your detriment. I'll see you tomorrow.